The 32X has 4 exclusive space-based shooters, with 3 being fairly well known for fairly specific reasons. Darkside for its rarity, Zaxxon's Mother Base 2000 due to its relationship to the famous franchise, and Star Wars Arcade for being a Sega-developed Star Wars game. The final game is Stellar Assault. If you grew up with the 32X, there's a good chance you weren't aware this game even existed, or bypassed it thinking it was a crappy Star Wars the Arcade game knockoff, kinda like those movies that you'll see on occasion such as What's Up, Atlantic Rim, and of course Texas Roadside Massacre. Fortunately, that's not the case here. Still, this series flies well under the vast majority of people's radar. This is Retro Impressions and Reviews, a show dedicated to answering if video games from the past are still worth your time today. Stellar Assault is a first-party title developed by Sega and released in the summer of 1995 under the title of Shadow Squadron in North America. This is a 3D space combat simulator that gives the player full control over the ship in an extremely large and open area. The story here is incredibly basic. A fleet of large ships is heading towards your home planet and have snuck past the early warning systems, putting them in a position where you are the only ship close enough and powerful enough to stop them. This game has a lot to offer in the options menu, especially considering the era in which this title released. You can change your flight controls, customize the controller layout, select the color of yours or the enemy's ship, utilize the object viewer to inspect the various in-game ships, and take advantage of a few options relating to sound. There is a 2-player option allowing for a pilot and gunner setup. Personally, I've never liked these arrangements, but it's available if you do. The controls are very responsive in this game, making full use of the 6-button controller and then some. Even the mode button has its own unique action, being utilized for changing the view from first to third person. The ship controls as you would expect, allowing the player to control the pitch, yaw, and roll of the craft. When you start, you're presented with the choice of 2 unique ships that not only control very differently, but also offer the player unique weapon and strategy opportunities. Feather 1 is a nimble ship that utilizes auto-firing twin laser cannons, allowing you to hold down the A button and just let them rip. It's also equipped with guided multi-targeting laser torpedoes and a spectral shield. Feather 2 is a heavy class ship with a high-powered manual fire laser cannon, meaning that you have to smash the A button for every single shot you're going to take. It also has access to a single target energy torpedo and a stronger shield. After you select your ship, you can choose between an on-rails type experience or retain the ability to fly the ship yourself. I personally can't imagine not flying the ship because that's half of the fun. Still, I appreciate the fact that it's included and have in fact read where people prefer this over the manual setup. Once you've made your choice, you'll be treated to a really awesome startup and launch sequence before you're briefed on the first mission. It's fairly straightforward. Destroy all the ships that have just moved out of hyperspace. When you start the actual mission, a few things are displayed and they are all very important. The green bar is your speed. You can speed up or slow down your ship as needed. The blue bar is your shield, and the red bar is your energy reserves. It's important that we talk about these 2 ships once again and how they operate with these things in mind. Both ships use energy and shield to perform certain tasks such as speeding up, activating the spectral shield, and launching torpedoes. If you don't manage these reserves carefully, they could deplete well into the middle of a mission, causing you to fail. Luckily, Feather 1 has the opportunity to refill its energy after each mission, leaving you with a fully restored ship as you move on to the next level. Feather 2, on the other hand, doesn't receive this option, meaning that you're stuck with the energy reserves you started the game with until the very end. On top of this, those reserves are used to repair your shield after each mission. At this point, you might be thinking that the Feather 2 is far inferior to number 1. But there is one last thing to cover, and that's the barrage of missiles and torpedoes that you'll be encountering throughout the game. It can get quite hairy out there, and only Feather 2 has a cannon powerful enough to destroy these, making it my preferred ship and the ship I recommend you tackle this game with. As you move on to the second mission, you'll need to intercept 17 fighters and 3 capital ships guarding an acceleration gate. The enemy is in the process of setting this gate up to bring in additional warships. From there, you're off to take out the enemy resupply stations that are set up in an asteroid belt. It's fairly easy to avoid the asteroids, allowing you to focus on taking down the assigned targets. Warping to the next location, you'll be intercepting an armada consisting of 11 capital ships, including their flagship class Carvelis and 17 fighters. This is quite frankly the best level in the game, and the one that I find most impressive due to the sheer number of on-screen enemies you can encounter at one time. The last mission before the final boss pits you against 2 more of the incredibly tough Carvelis battleships, 14 very aggressive fighters, and an extremely large and easy to take down carrier. By the end, it's clear that the enemy intends to destroy your homeworld. They have constructed a huge laser cannon and are in the process of activating it, meaning that we need to take this thing out before it goes live. This is a time stage giving you exactly 3 minutes with very little time to spare. If you run out of time, the cannon activates, leading to a cool experience as it pulls your craft towards it, killing you in the process. This cannon is protected by an outer ring of slave units that you must destroy in order to reveal the weak spot of the weapon. Once you've done that, the clock resets to 2 minutes. Take out the cannon and you will become victorious. With the game over, the credits roll, and even though there is no ending, it's still extremely satisfying to play and finish this title. After the game restarts, you'll notice that there's a new option called Trace. This appears whenever you have finished the game, win or lose, and is an instant replay of your entire last playthrough. It's a cool addition, especially considering a playthrough can last anywhere between 1 and 2 hours. This game is extremely interesting in the aspect that every mission in battle revolves around taking down capital class ships, along with the standard squadrons of fighters you might anticipate in this style of game. There is a fantastic assortment of ships to go up against, and some real strategy required not only in how you approach the ships you need to destroy, but also how you manage your remaining energy. So let's talk about the graphics. This is an absolutely stunning game. If you're like me and love the flat shaded polygon look, this game just knocks it out of the park. The draw distance is incredible, the number of large objects displayed at one time is impressive, and the sheer scale of capital ships you encounter along with their squadrons of fighters is astonishing. Some people feel that the backgrounds are a bit dull, but I think that's a bit unfair considering the graphical style used here. In fact, the attention to detail that is there is well thought out. My personal favorite is how your home star increases in size as you approach closer and closer level after level. Let's talk about some of the common complaints, starting with the audio. It's average, nothing more, nothing less, and without a doubt it's the worst part of this packaged experience. Most of the loops are fairly repetitive, although there are a few that really shine. I also received some negative comments from my family regarding some of the sound effects being a bit on the annoying side. I don't find any of it to be personally annoying, and even though I feel that the soundtrack is just average, it's still enjoyable to listen to while playing the game as it fits the atmosphere nicely. One oddity I found is you seldom, if ever, take fire from behind. I mean, the more aggressive enemy fighters will ram into you from behind in the later levels, but rarely will you need to deal with enemy fire from ships you're not facing. Maybe this was for the best though, making for a cleaner gaming experience, and quite frankly, it might have made beating the game near impossible if it was actually implemented here. There is also an issue people have regarding the ship's energy depletion. Personally, I think this was a brilliant move on behalf of the developers that forces the player to make hard decisions about the use of certain ship features, and without a doubt makes the game more difficult. That's a good thing though, as this game is perfect in the difficulty department as far as I'm concerned, and would be an absolute pushover without this restriction in place. In February of 1998, Stellar Assault SS released exclusively for the Sega Saturn in Japan. It was developed by Sims as a joint venture between Sega and Sanritsu, with Sega retaining control of the company during the period in which this game was developed. A large portion of the original development team was brought on board for this project, including the original design team, director, and the original game's creator. This is a fairly obscure game even in Japan, so you won't find much about it online. I had high hopes coming into this that I would be able to hire someone to translate the manual and in-game story, as it hasn't been done, but little did I realize how huge an undertaking it would be, as there is easily over an hour's worth of dialogue here. Thankfully, even though the story is a major focus of this game, and it's only in Japanese, it doesn't really affect the enjoyment or playability. In fact, it's still possible to have a general idea of what's going on thanks in part to the cutscenes used to tell the story and every bit of text being in English. While that might seem small, it's actually a deal maker because that also includes the menus, making this game 100% accessible and playable even if the story isn't. With that said, it's a bit hard to give this game the proper attention it deserves due to the language barrier. The voice work sounds great, and it should, as some top Japanese voice talents played major roles here.
名誉ある東郷軍初の実戦行動だ。行くぞ。
ミッションエリア座標確認。ジャンプ後方に移行。
They even got the voice actor who played Data on the Japanese TNG.
クリンゴンの基地を守るために命がけで戦い全滅してしまったとなれば。
Now that's cool. The audio work in this game is really well done, as is the music, giving the sequel a marked improvement over its predecessor. Looking through the option menu, the ability to change your ship's color along with the object viewer have been removed. There are a couple new additions, though nothing worth mentioning at this time. At its core, it's a true sequel, keeping everything that was great about the first game while expanding upon the things that could use improvement. Things such as offering a larger variety of level design and mission types, while leaving be the things that might ruin the experience by trying something new and innovative, such as messing with how the ships control and feel. One improvement over the original is the Saturn's controller. With the addition of the shoulder buttons, it just feels better suited for these kind of games, making everything feel a bit more fluid. It's also compatible with the 3D control pad if that's your thing. Let's get right down to the nitty-gritty and discuss some of the differences regarding the pre-game experience and ships. Gone is the full autopilot mode, eliminating the on-rails option from the first game. Also, you can't play in 2-player mode if you select Feather 1. There is also a slight change in each ship's energy consumption rate. Both have been adjusted, though it's a bit more noticeable when flying Feather 1. I imagine this adjustment was made due in part to Feather 2 no longer requiring you to complete the entire game with only one tank of energy. No matter what ship you're in, you will now start each mission fully restored. Some other notable changes are the inclusion of at least 2 endings and the removal of the third-person perspective. According to the in-game button mapping screen, it's in the game, but I couldn't get it to work. Everything else remains essentially the same when it comes to the ships you have access to and their capabilities. As we head into the game, it's clear that the enemy from the 32X release has returned. I remember reading somewhere that it's a bi-yearly problem that these people have, so it would make sense that we are once again in this situation. Thankfully, you don't seem to be caught off guard this time and have an actual squadron to accompany you from mission to mission, making for a very similar yet satisfyingly different experience when compared to the first game. The atmosphere is fantastic, with a large variation of mission types and locations. There are 17 in total. The first few missions have us battling large squadrons of enemy fighters and encountering a fully operational Excelgate. From there, we encounter more capital ships and find our way inside an asteroid where we are tasked with destroying some large device. Mission 6 takes place just above the atmospheric layer of a planet and ends with one of your team members losing control of their craft with it heading towards the planet. This leads to a really cool rescue mission that might frustrate some players, but I found to be extremely satisfying to accomplish. The reward is Mission 8, one of the coolest in the game. You start above the clouds but can break through them to reveal the surface of the planet. It's breathtaking and unexpected. There are a couple missile silos that you're tasked with destroying, but unfortunately they will fire missiles, moving you into a timed mission where you need to shoot them down before they detonate. From a planet full of water, we head to one without an atmosphere and a huge tower that needs to come down. This also might be the most confusing mission in the game. Once the tower's down, it's time to head underground via a tunnel that requires precision maneuvering to enter. You'll exit this tunnel into a large room and need to take down another suspended tower and then travel back the way you came. Here lies the problem. There's a door blocking the exit, and I'm sure if you understood Japanese, it's explained via the dialogue, but I don't. So it required a ton of trial and error to figure out you need to be using your speed boost to break through. A few more missions dealing with large capital ships and their squadrons gives way to an encounter with a familiar foe. It's the final enemy from the original game, the Sun Laser. Unlike the 32X release, this isn't timed and is essentially the same mission but with much more aggressive enemy fighters who are more than happy to give their lives in an effort to stop you by sending their craft crashing into yours. After it's destroyed, an enemy fighter kills one of your squad members and seriously damages your ship, leaving you with very little shields and a dogfight on your hand. This is the most aggressive ship you're going to encounter the whole game. The final mission takes you to the heart of the enemy operation. There are a ton of tunnels to navigate, radar jamming devices to take out, and huge spaces to explore. There is an energy core at the center that needs to be destroyed, then get the heck out as another timer is running and you need to be out of there before it blows up. Once you're out, you're treated to an awesome sequence where you see your ship leave what is now revealed to be a planet-sized spherical ship that will soon explode. And that's game. This here is an incredible experience to play, giving the player a full roller coaster ride that just begs to be played, level after level, making it truly unfortunate that it's nearly impossible to find. So let's go over some common complaints. There are a few small issues I have with this game, the largest being that only a portion of the cutscenes are skippable. It's an issue on any playthrough as they easily add 20 to 30 minutes to the game that you're forced to endure. One saving grace is an option called Scenario that's hidden away under the sound menu. This option allows you to reduce the story elements on a percentage basis. While I'm not exactly sure the difference between what each percentage offers, one thing's for sure, if you turn it to off, you will bypass all mission briefings and in-game dialogue. I was able to find a bit of discussion with people talking about this game. The general consensus is that it's well liked, but that the tight tunnels and corridors are unfair. Personally, I feel the controls are spot on and allow for precision movement. This means most issues users will encounter will be entirely self-inflicted, either due to being unfamiliar with the level or by being reckless with the choices they make. In the end, Stellar Assault is a game you need to own if you own a 32X or Saturn. The 32X version is an extremely fun and well-made game that excels at everything it set out to accomplish, while the Saturn release takes the formula and builds upon it in all the right ways, giving us another must-play game. I love how the 32X makes use of the flat-shaded polygons and creates a story where it's you alone against huge fleets of invading ships, while in the Saturn sequel we got textured polygons that still look great today, something that is seldom true when talking about early textured graphics. Also, the decision to place you in a squadron, along with the chatter between your teammates, makes this game feel alive. Both games are great, and while it's hard to recommend one version over the other due to how well they complement each other, the Saturn release is my preferred game and without a doubt one of the best 3D space combat simulators of the 5th generation. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a positive or negative comment letting me know your thoughts. Click subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Jenovi, and this has been Retro Impressions and Reviews.